What's going on? Boys, thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers, subscribe to our Patreon free for behind the scenes stuff. Arm yourselves, life stuff. I think this is going to be a weird one. I was inventorying my fears the other day, things that make you uncomfortable, things about yourself you don't want to look at, which you should get in the habit of doing. Anyway, inceldom is one of my biggest personal fears. And because of the way my romantic life has unfolded, I think that's always been a fear, but it's intensifying. Because there are two sides to this. When I was younger, I didn't have this problem. I managed to have my young love and broken heart in high school. I managed to have my getting what I want sexually, the juggling thing after that. Then, almost consecutively, I had my 1 to 3 year each major life relationships. But ever since the end of the last one, all that's happened have been these weird, brief, malformed thing connections. Always brief, always dissatisfying, always demoralizing, and increasing amounts of time between even those. But even with those, how satisfied can you be with them if you don't feel any happiness in them? Because maybe in some of them you get off a little bit, but a nut once busted is different from a spirit consistently fulfilled. And it seems like that ability to meet women and connect with women with whom you can achieve spiritual fulfillment in the nut fashion and in the heart fashion disappeared. And that starts getting you antsy. But worse, when you connect it up with the other side, I'm almost 30 and I'm still a virgin. That, on its face, doesn't bother me as much as it used to when I was younger. And coincidentally, I think inceldom had a big part in relieving that stress, that particular fear, specific fear. But rather, what bothers me about it is it indicates an uncomfortable truth about the way my entire romantic life has unfolded. I've never had any control over the getting. Except, again, maybe during that weird juggling period. But I was able to do that only because the ecosystem back then permitted it. I'm not someone who's good at going out and getting unless the circumstances are really on point. And at that point, that's not even gaming, really. That's active attracting. And there haven't been opportunities for those in a long time either. So what I do is I cope. And to define coping, because it's a great word, but loser young dudes, they both overused it and also have some kind of fear about it now. What does coping even mean? Coping is the process by which you practice a method or assure yourself of an idea, an arrangement mentally, that will make you feel like you will get what you want, even though in practice you don't get what you want, and you have no idea how to get what you want or the means to get what you want. A cope is a distraction or a wild goose chase you can use to content yourself for a little while, so you don't have to face the facts just a little bit longer. And we'll come up with another word, a different word from cope, so it can't be dismissed as easily. That's another thing I don't understand. Well, no, I do understand it. A word gets overused and then it becomes a dismiss flag. You need to build your own words. Anyway, I cope 2 ways. One, I comfort myself with what I've accomplished in the past, and if I've done it before, then I can do it again, sort of thing. And I also comfort myself with my influence. I don't know what it is or why, but I have some kind of effect on people. But the reason these two things are copes is if I could do it again, having done it before, then why am I not doing it again? And let's say you do have an effect on people, why did that effect stop working? And balancing is another big discomfort. Because I review all my records, and I'm not a push around guy. Once I'm in a relationship, I have weight, and walking away usually isn't a problem for me. But none of that is the case when you are single trying to get into a relationship. In that circumstance, you are powerless. You have no control. You get your power only once someone is dumb enough to start caring. But up until that point, you have nothing. You are totally at the world's mercy. And people talk about all these different methods of attracting women or attracting partners generally. The only method I've ever found that works is to be yourself, unironically, and then let it happen if it's going to happen. But it's not happening, is the thing. At least not anymore. And I don't get it. Has dating completely changed within the last 5 to 10 years? It makes me sick, and not in a sneering way, more in an upset stomach way. What happened? There must be something I'm not understanding. Because you do the what would someone else think about you thing. Buffalo Bill. Would I fuck me? I would fuck me. My body still gives me a bit of self-repulsion, but I like who I am a lot. I like my clothes, I like my job, I like my hobbies, I like my interests and aspirations, and it's weird that I've fallen off romantically and sexually when, to my eyes, I'm the happiest with myself I've ever been. So either what I value isn't what is valued, which puts me in real deep shit because I don't think I'm going to be changing much, or the landscape has changed in a way more significant than we realize. Or you were more valuable when you were younger, but you didn't see it. But even then, obviously not enough, not valuable enough to build a life. And I have a feeling that last major life relationship broke something inside me. Because that would have been perfect if she just wanted kids. And again, it's not like I have zero SMV, even now, but I don't understand what that's based on, and it doesn't really matter, because ultimately I'm passive at first. Because I don't have social and game playing tools, and even if I did, I have a feeling I'd be too stubborn to use them, or too inept to use them, because I hate this idea of needing to ply your trade on the person you're supposed to be entering a partnership with. The most active thing I can do is state my intentions when I have intentions. But maybe the landscape has changed on that front a little bit, because today, it's never been fun, but it feels like there are two classes of people. The first class of person sets out to rip someone apart, and the other class of person, adapting to the first class of person, is super guarded. And sometimes they're the same person. So it's all on you to go out and find someone you probably aren't even interested in, which is the worst, by the way. Every time I've tried to be active, it's never ended well, because you get When I say active, I mean doing all the work, not going up to someone you have a pretty good idea you'd click with. Putting in the work with somebody. It always ends poorly, and it ends worse than anything because you get shit on and disrespected and chewed up by probably someone you didn't have any faith in to begin with. Which, that's another thing, dummies. You should have had more faith. I don't think false faith... Well, you can't synthesize faith, one. Two, I don't think any amount of synthesis... Faith is a signaler. So if you synthesize faith, you are tricking yourself into believing there's a signal there that isn't there. To summarize all this, or to boil it all down, the well dried up, and I have no idea why or what to do about it in any authentic fashion, and it's sad. Because realistically, even if you are a blind, deaf fool like me, don't know how things were working before, you don't know why they stopped working, even if you stay in this state, you and your surroundings, the things you can't see or hear or understand, those will continue to change. So maybe the well will refill. Maybe whatever this invisible storm is will pass. But if it doesn't, then this is what you're going to be. Because, as I said, unless there is a good reason, I don't see myself changing much about who I am or the way I operate. Because it's taken me a long time to be somebody I like being, and I don't think I'm willing to give up who I am for much. And that's important to note, because another part of all this is just how unbelievably horny you get sometimes. You've been around the channel for a while, you know what I'm into. That's a niche that is difficult to satisfy. And out of nowhere, you'll get so aroused, it's painful. The lack of fulfillment is painful. Because sexuality is more than just blowing a load. Especially when you have particular interests. It's a spiritual thing. But it sometimes gets so intense, you would beg, if you could, like filth. But I bring this up in relation to not changing, even if you knew which ways you needed to change. At least on this front. Because in this most recent, larger episode, that's probably the most out of my mind I've been in a long time. I managed not to beg. Not that it was a real option because of pride and righteousness, but those urges are strong enough to try to challenge pride and righteousness. And the only reason it's not an option is because to beg, you need to push yourself so low. And once you push yourself that low, you're guaranteed something bad will happen to you. And even if you got what you wanted in begging, it's proof you have zero control in getting what you want. And that's not the way to live. Ultimately, we have no power, but we're given these instincts, I'm assuming with the intention we use them. I have no interest in submitting to being completely at another person's mercy. I can and will get off on the idea, but in practice, humans are not people you can trust with that. And that's probably why my circumstance here bothers me so much. I have no power, and I also won't submit to having no power. Ain't gonna happen. And the way these ghosts have shown up romantically in my life over these last bunch of years now, it feels taunting. You have something, otherwise they wouldn't show up, but you don't know what you have, much less how to use it, and it's whatever it is obviously not as powerful or valuable as it was in the past. But then again, let's add a third cope into this. All the women who have been really into me were most interested in seeing the sort of man I would turn into. So maybe my demographic is speculative investors. I don't know. The worst part of all this is I feel like this is the way, at least for now, it's supposed to be. Because usually when I'm unhappy with something, after enough time, a path out begins to present itself. Or things slowly begin to make more sense until I understand the picture enough I can do something. Here, no path is presenting itself, and I have no idea what the deal is with me or with the market, with women. I have no idea. And I haven't had an idea for a while now. And realistically, I've never had an idea. Because you spend time, you listen to Patrice O'Neill, you do your own field research, you begin to develop an idea of what men are, what women are, and that learning is important because you will use it out in life, out in the world. But when it comes down to you and one other person, having an idea of what's going on, even if you did, doesn't mean anything. Because it's like every rule, and you can't see the rules, they all change, and you don't know where they've moved to, you don't know where they started from. It's a big, confusing, terrifying mess. And you hope, going back to the last major life relationship, you hope with the right person, things will be as easy, even though you still won't have any idea what's going on, they will be as easy with this person as they are difficult with other people, but you have no control over that, and you also have no control over... It's like you have to go out into the world scavenging to find tickets to go into a casino. I think we'll cut it here because we're not getting anywhere. But the main point is, I have no idea what's going on or why or what to do about it. And I know that's an invitation for retards to come out of the woodwork and tell me what to do about it. But these people always, either they're pushing a strategy that hasn't worked for them, or they're pushing a strategy that has worked for them thus far. And that's the killer. Everybody is always so certain they've figured out one of life's major mysteries until it stops working for them and they realize you are in the situation I'm in which you realize you never knew what was going on. For now, I am tired. And I think the fear is ramping up because you realize time is beginning to run out. You still have time, but your entire life isn't ahead of you anymore. And nothing is scarier than needing to summon rain via rain dance on a deadline when you don't know how to rain dance and you don't even know if rain dancing summons rain. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.